Fevered Publishing presents Metal Spies, Shadowfast Action Thriller 1 by Cole Chase. Read by the author.
Chapter 29. He's re-engaged, Quinn says. As the Mini Cooper scoots south past the town's football and baseball stadiums, Quinn turns to look back. Sure enough, the widely spaced headlights close in on them, the Challenger's horsepower eating their head start like a snack. Near the heavily trafficked streets around the stadiums, the city has installed the latest traffic signals. They ignore Cisco's preemption device. He must keep veering onto side streets to not get caught at a red light. Where the speed felt exhilarating in the beginning, now that Cisco must ignore so many traffic rules to outrun the Fed, their chase has turned more dangerous than ever. After the Mariners Stadium, the So-Do area begins. Cisco keeps working south with turns to the east and the west to dodge stoplights and outmaneuver the Challenger. They hit a section of old signals on First Avenue South that turn green for Cisco. He nurses the Mini Cooper up to 100 miles an hour. By the time they rocket past Starbucks headquarters, a large Amazon grocery warehouse, and a Home Depot, the roaring Challenger nearly touches their back bumper. Cisco drifts into a tight turn onto a side street heading west, then takes another street south. They pass under the West Seattle Bridge. The night darkens around them, streetlights appear infrequently, and even then, the city has turned off every other one to economize. Almost all retail or fast food has given way to warehouses and small factories. During the day, the district bustles with activity, 18-wheel carriers loading and unloading goods. At night, the entire area sits cold and black under the rain clouds. They drive as if through a tunnel, the illumination of Cisco's headlights, the only thing piercing the black. The only exception is when they shoot past a gigantic Costco warehouse, open around the clock. The dock's industrial lights shine in the night, and as they pass, Quinn glimpses personnel in high-visibility vests driving forklifts and loading appliances into huge trucks. The Challenger remains hot on their tail. This is and isn't the plan. Robo-Voice wants the Fed following them when they hit a certain street in the quiet, dark warehouse district. The client hasn't revealed the plan, but Quinn scouted the street during the day, and he knows what he would do. He guesses the client plans to apprehend the Fed. The targeted street has a series of small warehouses leased to the endless variety of businesses that sell small objects, like cat toys or collectible cards. Their wide overhead doors face the street in a row, resembling a slightly expanded version of a rental storage compound. Quinn would have the chase car shoot up the street. As soon as the Mini passes a certain warehouse, a vehicle would pull out of the building, blocking the road between the Mini and the pursuing Dodge. Then, as soon as the Dodge slowed to avoid the blocking vehicle, another would pull out of a warehouse behind the Dodge, pinning him in. Presumably, Robo-Voice has additional manpower then to overwhelm the driver, but all that assumes a gap between the Mini and the Challenger. "Get some distance from this clown," Quinn urges. This rundown part of the warehouse district sports narrow roads with no curbs and wide parking lots so that big trucks can maneuver. A driver following the rules sees streets and parking lots, but physically, it is a giant field with buildings interspersed about. As they approach an intersection with a traffic light, no traffic approaches in any direction. Cisco swerves into the oncoming lane, then diagonally across a parking lot onto the eastbound street, catching the Challenger by surprise. The Dodge takes the corner conventionally, which opens the gap between pursuer and pursued by 5 or 6 car lengths. "How strong is that?" Rory begins. "Hang on," Cisco shouts urgently. He repeats the cut-the-corner maneuver across another parking lot, but this is a dirt lot. The car jolts and jerks and swings and slides. Quinn braces the back of his head against the headrest to avoid whiplash. When they get lined up with a road again, they lead the Challenger by 10 car lengths. Through the drops on the windshield, even in the dark, Quinn recognizes where they are. "That light ahead is the final intersection," he announces. "You get him past that, we get paid." "It's green," Cisco celebrates. "Almost home." He floors the accelerator. "But it's green on the—" Rory begins again. Quinn wishes for 360-degree vision. Behind, he can see the Challenger's dazzling light bar closing the distance. From the left, up ahead on the cross street, he sees a Costco 18-wheeler barreling for the intersection. It looks like it has no plan to stop, and he checks again. Yes, we have the green light. Quinn watches that green light until it flies over the top of the windshield as they clear the intersection. His sense of victory lasts a mere split second. Partly trapped by his shoulder belt, he struggles to turn and put his left arm on the backboard so he can see the Challenger. The Challenger, fully committed to the pursuit, enters the intersection a hair before the Costco truck. The Costco driver doesn't try to stop until the very last second, but on the rain-slick streets, 40 tons of loaded big rig barely slow. Too late, both drivers realize they're going to collide, both swerve. Both choose the same direction, their efforts merely guaranteeing collision. The headlights of the big rig blast light into the agent's horrified face as the truck T-bones the Challenger, plowing it sideways like a leaf before a locomotive. The Dodge's driver's side caves in with a screech of metal. The truck bullies the car diagonally across the intersection, where the pole for the traffic light stops the passenger door. The momentum of the truck flattens the Challenger, bending it nearly in half around the pole. Then the pole crumples. The weight of the signal and related signage twists the pole as it falls. The signal itself, out on the pole's extended arm, bounces off the roof of the one-story warehouses, then spins face down to the ground in a shower of sparks. The pole crushes the roof of the Challenger. When the action stops, the headlights of the long-haul truck blaze at point-blank range, glaring at the most pulverized car Quinn has ever seen. Quinn and Rory stare backwards in frozen horror as the image recedes behind them. Cisco slows, uncertain. "Should we help?" Rory says at the same time, "We can't just drive away." Gas trickling out of the Challenger's bent tank catches a spark from the fallen traffic signal and ignites. In the warehouse the signal fell on, one of the overhead doors flies up. Men in tactical black run out, then slow when they see the flames. Quinn surfaces from his shock enough to say, "Keep going." Cisco meets his gaze by looking over his shoulder. "The rendezvous?" As Quinn watches out the back window, the Challenger explodes. A brilliant flash sears his eyes. A second later, a deep whoomp kicks his chest. Right after that, the impact wave rocks the Mini Cooper. Some of the men in black fall backward. Quinn tries to answer but can't choke words out of his dry throat. He swallows, tries again. "Yeah," he croaks. "Help is there, better than we can offer." They sit wordlessly as the car threads through the dark labyrinth of dead buildings. Minutes later, the headlights finger the back of the ice cream truck. Cisco flashes his brights once. The back of the truck opens wide to reveal Danny and Nightboy. They hop out, and each one grabs his side of a narrow metal ramp. They extend it out, then down. Cisco eases the car up to it, watching Danny's hand signals to make sure the Mini Cooper heads straight in. Then he gooses the throttle just enough to get the car up the ramp and into the truck. Behind them, the doors shut, locking them in. In the tight confines of the van, they can't open the doors to exit the car. They just sit there until Cisco can back them out again. They hear and feel the ramp slide back into the truck's underside. The only illumination inside the van comes from the Mini Cooper's headlights. They feel more than hear the van start up. Then it lurches and drives away. The lights bounce off the van's white walls. They catch in Rory's wide blue eyes, making her appear wild as she asks, "Their plan was to kill him?" "They said they wanted to talk to him," Quinn says, more to himself than anyone else. "I want it to be an accident," Cisco says. "Otherwise, we helped with the murder." "I tried to tell you," Rory says, "that intersection had green lights from every angle." Quinn starts. "That's why the truck didn't slow down?" He looks to Cisco. "Could your device malfunction?" "Nah, man." Cisco tears the preemptor off its mount. He examines it. "It just has AAA batteries. It's not strong enough to signal all directions." "Destroy it anyway," Quinn orders. "We can't leave any evidence." "Sure, boss." The three stare at one another. Rain pelts the roof of the van. "Now what?" Rory asks. "No fucking clue," Quinn says grimly. "But Robo-Voice has tricked us for the last time. One way or another, I'm getting answers from that fucker." Cisco sighs. He pulls the balaclava off his face. Rory realizes she's still wearing the wig, and with a grunt of exasperation, pulls it off. Then she pulls off the skull cap trapping her black hair. She shakes it out, scratching at her scalp. Shorn of disguise, they roll through the rainy night, unable to see where they're going. Chapter 30. After witnessing the death of the federal agent, Cisco and Rory join Manny and Danny at Quinn's house. Cooper didn't see it, and he doesn't care. He usually fills his day with gigolo-adjacent activities. Nightboy didn't see it, and he's also not a hang-out-together guy. But the twist of fate has strengthened the bond among the rest of them. Rory arcs her latest custom deck of symbols face down on the kitchen table. Angels and demons grapple in combat on the back of each one, reproducing a stunningly intricate woodcut. She has Danny pick a card, any card, over and over as she refines forcing a card. In the kitchen, Manny uses a KitchenAid to roll out long, thin sheets of handmade pasta. Quinn slumps bonelessly on the couch in the living room. "How do we learn Robo-Voice's real identity?" he asks again, as if he hasn't posed the question 5 times this morning. "Manny, there's gotta be some hackery phone freaky thing you can do if he calls." "They," Rory corrects. "We don't know it's a he." Quinn waves her off. "How do we track them when they call?" he calls to Manny. "Can you do it?" "Sure I can," Manny responds, gently folding the endless sheet of pasta. When he glances up at Quinn's hopeful expression, he adds, "If Robo-Voice is a knuckle-dragging moron." Cisco glances up from road and track. "Killjoy." Manny sighs and turns off the pasta machine. "The client's voice changes every time he calls. That means he uses technology. Yes, I could try some tracer apps, but I'm not the phone company. Robo-Voice could have burner apps, redirect apps, obfuscators. The best I could do is maybe identify which cell tower he's calling from if he's using a mobile phone. In Seattle, that narrows it down from millions of users to hundreds of thousands. That's not exactly learning his identity." Quinn gets up and goes in the kitchen. Reaching into the fridge for sparkling water, he observes, "But maybe it's a start." Danny adds, "Maybe we cross-reference." "We don't have any other data points," Manny points out. "Still." Quinn pops the tab on his water, sips, thinks. If we know, oh, he's calling from Capitol Hill, or, oh, he's calling from Bellevue, maybe we can find more information to keep narrowing it down. "More information," Manny echoes back. He stares at Quinn, waiting for an example. Quinn draws a blank. He returns to the couch where he slumps again like a straw man. "Website," Danny says. The others look at him. They gave us details about the job on bensinister.us. "I checked it out," Manny says. They're doing the same thing I do on our dark website. The name remains Ben Sinister, but that points to a server, right? They've automated a round-robin DNS program, so whatever is serving up Ben Sinister changes every 5 minutes. Quinn can only guess what that means, but the big Samoan moves on. Something else has me more worried, he says. He dusts a cutting board with flour and begins slicing the pasta sheet into pasta squares. The accident never made it into the news. Cisco perks up. That's good, no? We didn't mean to kill nobody. You said it was a big crash. Flames, property damage, spectacle. For that not to make the news? Someone hushed it up. Rory pauses her card play. That's major fucking clout. Yeah, Quinn jokes humorlessly. That Costco has tentacles everywhere. He doesn't want to contemplate because the entity that can hush up the death of a federal agent is the federal government. For a minute, Quinn sulks. Manny slices. Rory shuffles. Cisco browses. Danny asks, "How long do we wait, boss?" Quinn stands. "I'm done waiting, Danny." He chugs the rest of his water. "Manny, fire up a laptop. I'm going to phone the bastard. Maybe you can trace him, maybe you can't. At least try." Manny nods and wipes his hands on a dish towel. Minutes later, the 5 of them circle the kitchen table. Quinn holds a finger to his lips in a shush gesture, then dials the memorized number from the Signal app on his smartphone. He sets the phone on speaker and places the device in the center of the oak table. They hear 5 rings. Then someone picks up and says, "Go for Merlin." The voice sounds like Ian McKellen playing Gandalf. Quinn looks at Manny, who looks up from his laptop and nods. Tracers activated. "We've fulfilled the contract," Quinn says. "Now you pay." "Aye," Gandalf admits. The response almost throws Quinn. He'd expected more song and dance. "I thought you wanted him to talk," Quinn says. "Why'd you kill him?" "That was unfortunate, and that was not our doing." "Who did it then?" Quinn demands. "Who even knew we would be there?" Silence. Quinn watches Manny, but his resident hacker remains focused on the laptop. "I will explain," Gandalf offers, "when you come to pick up your money." "Come," Quinn says. "Just transfer it to my account. Ready for the number?" "We should meet," Gandalf says. Quinn looks around. All the team looks wary. None of them knows what to think. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" Gandalf sighs. "How do you know it isn't an explanation, an apology, and a payday?" That sets Quinn back. Anonymous assholes generally don't bring up apologizing. "All right," Quinn says. "He wants somewhere crowded and public, so they can't pull anything. He needs a place with numerous witnesses and a logistically difficult retreat." "The top of Pike Street stair climb." "Not possible. You will understand why when we meet," Gandalf retorts firmly. "I suggest the opposite, somewhere secluded and securable." "Never gonna happen," Quinn snaps back. "You've earned 0 trust so far." Danny scribbles 2 words, then holds up his note to Quinn. "Columbia Center, the tallest high-rise in Seattle." Quinn nods. "A compromise," he offers. "I want a place where, if you kill me, you'll have a hard time explaining a murder and a dead body. You want privacy. We each get what we want at the observation deck of Columbia Center." Gandalf contemplates this for so long that Quinn wonders if the call ended. At last, the voice responds, "We can make that work, tonight, 5:30. "Don't pull any shit," Quinn threatens. "I'm warning you." Gandalf says wearily, "I tremble in my elven boots," and disconnects. "Anything?" Quinn asks Manny. Attempting his best Gandalf impression, Manny says indignantly, "I'm not a conjurer of cheap tricks." No one laughs. Everyone stares at the table. Manny shrugs and resumes typing on his laptop. "Shit to do," Danny says, standing. That breaks the spell, and everyone stands, moves, talks. Chair legs scrape the tile. Rory scoops up her cards. Quinn checks the time. They have 4 tight hours of prep before the meetup. When he looks for Danny, he finds him already standing in the doorway to the basement, watching Quinn. Quinn nods and they head downstairs to the armory. Chapter 31. He can't stand paying exorbitant parking charges, so Quinn walks 3 blocks from his curbside parking spot to the entrance of Columbia Center. The Black Tower looms over the city, 76 stories of 1985's best construction. If you took a football field and stood it up on end, then topped it with another vertical football field, then stacked one more vertical football field on top of the first 2, that's how high off the ground the observation deck is, where Quinn is headed, alone. From the street, he trots up half a flight of wide concrete stairs and enters the double glass doors. The doors admit him to a short, boring business corridor. The processed air has a sterile smell. Columbia Center looks unimpressive until he rounds the end of the corridor. Suddenly, he's in a wide-open lobby that looks more like a shopping mall than a business building. Yawning 3 stories below him, layer after layer of retail signs and neon eateries beg him to explore. Girders and cross braces divide his view upward. He's heard that 5,000 employees work in this building, but now he believes the real figure must be higher. If he hit the place cold, it would have taken him a minute to even find the elevators. But Nightboy already scouted it for him, dressed as a bike messenger so he could tromp through in his sunglasses. Following Nightboy's instructions, Quinn threads confidently through groups of knowledge workers hustling to and fro. It's quitting time, and workers both hurried and relaxed enliven the lobby. More than once, someone absorbed in their phone bumps him. The building has a cluster of multiple elevator bays, with some dedicated to the lower floors, some to the upper. He goes where Nightboy told him and finds an express elevator to the upper floors. As the 14th person to step into the elevator car, he mentally applauds Danny's suggestion of meeting at Columbia Center. He can think of ways to smuggle a body out of a facility this size, but none of them are easy. With civilians traveling in all directions for 1,000 different purposes, he couldn't set up a feasible play in 4 hours. Therefore, RoboVoice probably couldn't either. The press of bodies prevents him from reaching the buttons. "Observation deck?" Quinn asks. A pretty woman in a white blazer and enough perfume to make his eyes water smiles and tells him, "Ride this to the top, then there's one more elevator to the observation deck." He nods politely and waits. The leap of the elevator presses his stomach toward his socks. The gun concealed at the small of his back shifts under his leather jacket, but he resists the impulse to readjust it. When the elevator opens on the 73rd floor, he holds the door and allows everyone else to exit. When he steps into the dark, small, upper-floor elevator lobby, across from him a sign labels another elevator door as the 3-floor ride to the observation deck. A man blocks the elevator. He wears a navy blazer with a round shoulder patch that reads Columbia Center Security. "Sorry," he tells 2 beanie-wearing tech hipsters, "the deck is closed." As the tech workers turn away, disappointed, Quinn hesitates. But the security guard makes eye contact and jerks his head at the elevator, so Quinn steps up and the door opens. When he steps inside, he hears the tech workers protest, and the security guard explains private event. The closing door cuts them off. Clout, Quinn thinks as the elevator rises. He hopes to God that RoboVoice isn't with the mob. When the doors open, 2 more suited men beckon him forward. Built like linebackers and wearing buzz cuts, these professionals outclass facility security. Each wears comms in one ear, with a black telephone coil curling down beneath their suit collars. ID, please, the brown-haired one asks. I have an appointment, Quinn says. That's all you need to know. Lift your arms, the black one says. We're going to frisk you. His tone implies, that's all you need to know. Seattle sparkles 73 floors below through the glass that forms two of the opposing walls. Glass, granite tile, a stone bench, a burnished silver trash receptacle. At about 15 feet square, this little vestibule offers him no options. He sighs and lifts his arms. The black guard moves in while brown hair stays back. He immediately finds Quinn's left shoulder Glock, then the SIG in the small of his back. He deftly removes each firearm and hands it to brown hair. In short order, he has disarmed Quinn's ankle backup, the necklace knife, the sap in his right pocket, and the brass knuckles in his left pocket. Then he whips out a detector and, after waving it over and around Quinn, finds the garrote wire in his collar. The guard seems unsurprised and unimpressed. Quinn knows something about the personal security market. These guys are top of the line, experienced, smart, unemotional, expensive. The guard finishes the search with, "Remove your belt." "Sure, I'm planning to moon your boss anyway." No reaction. Quinn unbuckles it, slips it out of his waistband, and hands it over. "I get this stuff back on the way out, right?" "We'll see." The guard who frisked him tells the other guard, "Good to go." The brown-haired guard gestures at a set of French doors. "This way, please." "That's not the observation deck." "This way, please." Quinn shrugs. So Robo-Voice wants to meet in a conference room instead of the observation deck. Quinn knows what they don't, that Danny lies across the street on the roof of another high-rise with a sniper rifle. All the rooms on this level have glass walls. Even with the last-minute switch, Danny can still cover Quinn. The guard folds the door back, and Quinn steps into the plush conference room, his footsteps silenced by thick carpet. The door hushes shut behind him. A large mahogany table stretches away from him, with 12 leather chairs around it. At the far end sits a black woman, Quinn's age, with straight hair, long in the front, almost to her eyes, and short in the back. She wears a well-fitted sleeveless purple dress, tailored with a refinement most Seattleites would never bother with. Her oversized glasses make her look stylish and smart. Two more suited security guards, looking SEAL-fit and well-trained, stand at parade rest near the walls on either side of her. "Welcome, Quinn," she says. She sips from a glass of lemon water. "Before we start our discussion, another guest is joining. Have a seat." Quinn doesn't like choosing the obvious chair at the foot of the table. He moves up a couple of seats on the right, rolls out a chair, and plops down. The French doors open, and the two guards who frisked Quinn usher in Danny. One of the guards holds Danny's rifle case. Danny, normally inscrutable, looks clearly angry and embarrassed. He makes eye contact with Quinn and twists his lips, a look that says both oops and sorry. He looks around briefly, then picks a chair opposite Quinn and sits. "Don't blame your man," their host says. "With a floor this high up, there were only 2 locations we had to check. Predictable, really." Quinn studies the table for a second. Feigning disappointment comes easily when you genuinely feel disappointed. He wants to look beaten so they don't keep searching. Although they've dismantled 2 layers of security, his personal weapons and his sniper, they haven't gotten them all. "What do I call you?" Quinn asks their host. She gestures passively. "Gawain will do." "We're ready for our pay," Quinn says. "Let's see it." "Why hurry? We've another guest on the way." The French doors open again and Quinn's heart sinks. Guards escort Manny into the room. Wary due to his big size, they flank him, each with one hand on a sidearm. Even the guards at the other end of the room unbutton their coats and unsnap their holster restraints in case they need to draw down. The joke in Quinn's mind is that Manny isn't half the threat to them that Danny is. Sit, the brown-haired guard barks. Manny fixes him with a glare. He pulls the chair out at the foot of the table and slowly lowers himself into it while maintaining his stink-eye glare with the guard. The stairwell? Really, Quinn? Gawain taunts. We know you can be resourceful. You must be used to inferior opponents if these are normally winning moves. We don't usually go up against ex-Secret Service, Quinn guesses. Gawain cedes the point with a slow nod. And you had a mere 4 hours. Respectable effort, just not successful. What's the point? Quinn asks. Why meet in person, so we can sit here and bask in our alleged helplessness? You brought the guns to a talk, Gawain says. These are merely our defensive measures. When we want you helpless, you'll know it. Quinn rolls his eyes. The brown-haired guard walks to the head of the table and sets before Gawain the USB stick that holds quantum-encrypted data. The big guy had it, the guard says. Then he retreats to the back of the room. Gawain adjusts her glasses, picks up the USB drive, and looks it over. Emmanuel Charles Parada, he says. What do you make of this? Manny blinks at the use of his full name, then he shrugs. Nothing. Gawain grins. I think you looked at it, though. You can think whatever you want, Manny counters. Then, as an afterthought, former Representative Gloria Mitnick. Mitnick looks slightly discomfited, then covers quickly. Quinn suppresses a smile. Two can play this I-know-your-name game. Manny must have recognized her from the news because Quinn can't be bothered with politicians. But then he focuses in on the privacy panel hiding the far corner and makes an intuitive leap. So, Mitnick, we're all here. He waits a beat for drama. Bring out your boss and let's deal. With satisfaction, Quinn sees that Mitnick underestimated them. The look on her face resembles an actor on stage who suddenly forgot the next line. Quinn has just enough time to trade looks with Manny and Danny when the sound of one person clapping comes from behind the privacy panel. Very good, comes an unseen voice. It sounds strangely familiar. The privacy panel stands at about 5 feet, so when the applauding man stands, they can only see his hair and the tip of one ear. But when he saunters into plain view, it's Quinn's turn to sit in shock. He didn't, couldn't, would never see this coming, and he has no idea what to do or say. Faster than he wants, his confusion resolves into fury. Chapter 32. Manny reacts instantly, viscerally. When people say, fuck the man, you're the man they mean, what the hell do you want with us? The gray-haired man laughs easily. I haven't been POTUS for 2 years now. I guess people will have to fuck the current man. I always swore that if I ever met you, I'd kick your ass, Quinn growls. You're lucky you have guards here. Should I assume you didn't vote for me? Former President of the United States, Gary Kirchhoff, pulls a chair out next to Mitnick, sits, and casually crosses his legs, all ease and amusement. He has the stolid build of a Midwestern farm boy who stacked hay in his teen years, boxed in high school and college, and then softened in the corridors of D.C. He wears his brown hair in a jarhead high and tight cut, despite having no military experience. He has the square jaw of Fred Flintstone. His no-nonsense, heart of America look helped make him the first politically independent candidate to win the White House. We did not vote for you, Danny says. Kirchhoff looks skeptical. You actually preferred the other candidate? We didn't vote at all. You're all interchangeable lying fuckers. Quinn turns to Manny and fumes. I was afraid our client might be with the mob. This is worse. Quinn, all that is required for evil to win is for enough good men to sell out to corporate lobbyists, and you've already done that. Save your propaganda for the sheep. Kirchhoff finally looks cross. At least sheep bleat. If you don't vote, us lying fuckers don't even have to tell you to shut up. You just did it to yourself. Disgusted, Quinn stands to go, which draws a response from every guard in the room. Then he remembers they haven't been paid, and he sits back down. You ran on a Me Too platform. Then you pardoned a sexual predator because he was a friend of yours. The man looks unfazed. You know that what the media says isn't the whole truth. 30 women testified against him, Quinn shouts. He realizes he's losing it. He tamps it down, but his voice could cut glass when he adds, softer, dumb and evil is bad enough, but knowing better, then doing evil is the worst. He glares at the ex-president. This has been you all along? That's why the voice changer? He nods. Now you know why I couldn't meet at Pike Place Market. Why I had to disguise my voice. And I admit, it is a bit of fun. Danny stares at him. A man died. That draws a knee-jerk response from Mitnick. You can't lay that at our feet. We had nothing to do with... Ex-POTUS gestures for silence. He gathers his thoughts for several seconds. Quinn and his crew wait. Kirchhoff has a few more lines and a touch more gray than last time Quinn saw him on TV, but he still has presence and vitality. Gentlemen, the man begins, I assumed you do not believe in the system. That's why you're here, but I underestimated the depth of your feelings. What do you mean, that's why you're here? Quinn presses. Kirchhoff holds one palm up toward Quinn, a gesture that says, give me time. In more ways than you might suspect, I agree with your sentiment. There is no better view of the corruption of government than from the top of government. He stares at each man in turn. No one disagrees. In some ways I had tremendous power, in other ways I had none, slowed by checks and balances, hampered by a hostile opposition, battered by news outlets more interested in clicks than facts. But most of all, and here he closes his eyes as if in pain, always stymied by the sheer inertia of masses who don't give a shit. Formal leadership had tremendous limits. When he opens his eyes, they hold a new energy. But informal leadership has much more potential. Quinn stifles a smart-ass response. He doesn't like the guy, but hearing him out offers advantages. Intuit where the man is lying, see where he's coming from, use his words against him. Game recognizes game, yes? Is that the saying? Manny nods. In government there are still true believers, in both parties, actual patriots, who want the people to be free, prosperous, unexploited, happy. He sighs. We are the minority, by far. But in 8 years I found a lot of them, and once they find you trustworthy, they are loyal. Wait a second, Quinn interrupts, incredulous. You classify yourself as one of the true believers? The ultimate run the office to line my pockets president? Kirchhoff draws himself up. With practiced gravitas, he announces, I am a believer. And he returns Quinn's frank stare in a way that convinces Quinn that whether it's true or not, this guy believes it of himself. And I am not alone. Mitnick, too, sits more upright. Consider this, gentlemen, she says. The way term limits work, the way government works, every civil servant retires at the peak of their knowledge and efficiency. Now put yourself in the shoes of that worker. If you're sick of bureaucracy and just want out, forced retirement works fine. But what if your time is up, yet your good work has just begun? You've just figured out which lever of power does what. You've just formed the relationships. You've just figured out who is self-centered and who is trustworthy. You deeply understand the issues. But now you're out. What would you do? The question hangs in the room. At last Danny says, I would keep going. Manny adds, you don't need the job just to do good. Men, Kirchhoff says in his lower register, a voice that has moved millions of people, a voice that has launched armies and committed trillions of dollars to causes. You've just described Ben Sinister. The concept radiates through the room like a concussion wave. Chapter 33. Then Quinn shakes his head. No. You reject it? Ex-POTUS says. Think about how many of us there are, retired generals, retired secretaries of this or that, retired ambassadors, retired senators, term-limited congressmen, retired presidents. Quinn thinks, presidents, plural. All the knowledge to do good and no need to play to voters or follow federal restrictions. I don't need a whole army if I know a commander who owes me a favor. I don't need the IRS if I know an agent willing to bend the rules for the greater good. I don't need an investigator if I can know whatever the government knows, a network of trust in the shadows. Do you realize how much good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit? Quinn shoots a glance at his crew and realizes, my God, they're buying it. So all this good you're doing, he says, it boils down to steal some data for me and get this FBI agent killed. Lot of good there, pal. Jesus sweats his job security. The man's eyes turn sad. He looks at Mitnick. Read them in, he orders. He gets up and lumbers to the water station, where he picks up a pitcher and a glass. Mitnick grabs a remote and clicks it at the ceiling. A projector descends, and a screen lowers behind her. The projector turns on. The screen fills with a candid photo. Mitnick removes her glasses to look at the screen. Know this man? Brody Bach, Quinn responds. We've had the pleasure. Mitnick does a double take. I'm sure there's a story there. You're in Seattle. He's in Seattle, so it makes sense. Then you know his business? Aerospace, Manny says. Now that we know each other a little better, let me ask you again, Emmanuel. When you looked at the data you obtained for us, what did you see? Manny eyes Mitnick. Then he admits grudgingly, aerospace. Exactly. Mitnick lifts the USB stick. We asked you to get this because we think it will prove Bach has accepted enormous payments from China and Russia, without reporting them. Manny looks intrigued. Payment for what? We don't know, yet. You won't know for a while, Manny says. He jerks his chin at the USB stick on the table in front of Mitnick. Shit's quantum encrypted. Mitnick exhales. Thought it might be, hope not, but we have a fallback. Quinn connects the dots. You wanted the FBI agent because he knew something about this. Mitnick nods. And that's why we keep telling you, we had nothing to do with him dying. We wanted to interrogate him. We weren't going to harm him. We have enough evidence of his selling government secrets that we could leverage the truth out of him. Quinn makes another leap of logic. Dr. Margaret what's-her-name, the one killed by self-driving cars. Yes, Mitnick says. We think it's related. An expert in orbital mechanics. Aerospace again. We think she was killed because she would have been able to spot what's coming. Which is? Quinn asks. The man turns at the water station. We don't know. That's where you come in. Quinn sees his confusion reflected on the faces of Manny and Danny. Us? Not to put too fine a point on it, but we need con artists. Someone who can get Bach to admit what he's up to. I don't know anyone like that, Quinn denies reflexively. He sits back in the leather seat. Hey, random question. What happened to your glorious network of trust in the shadows? The man's mouth twists in a rueful smile. They're government workers. If you need someone to write a confounding memo, we're set. But how would you rate their skill at mounting a clever short con? Others are better at it, Quinn says factually. But again, why us? Why Shadowfast? 2 reasons, Mitnick says. 1, you accomplished both missions. You're proven competent. And 2, the man grins, you hate my fucking guts. The beauty of it blooms inside Quinn. "Oh my God." He finds himself grinning back. "When we never snitch, but if we got caught, we could confess to absolutely everything, and no one would believe us for 1 second. He turns to Manny and Danny. "Low-level no-accounts like us on a secret mission for the ex-president?" "Like the Blues Brothers," Manny agrees. "We're on a mission from God." Everyone chuckles at the incongruity. The man tries to look modest. "Call it plausible deniability." "That's beautiful," Quinn admits. "Oh, and the answer is no." He gets the satisfaction of seeing both Mitnick and ex-POTUS wrench their expressions in surprise. He lets them twist for a moment before he adds, "You don't get to be a repeat client when you don't pay." Pfft, that. The man nods at a guard. The guard walks behind the privacy screen. He comes back out with a briefcase. He lumbers over and sets the briefcase in front of Quinn. Quinn pops the latches. He lifts the lid. Bundles and bundles of Benjamins stare back. He spins the case so Manny and Danny can see. Manny stands, reaches over and grabs a bundle. So does Quinn. They each riffle through a few bundles. They've played enough games themselves to know that some bundles could have a $100 bill on top with a bunch of ones, or even blanks, underneath. "It really is $250,000, Manny says. "And used bills," Quinn says. "Nonsequential, no funny business." They toss the bundles back in and Quinn closes the lid. "Okay," he says. "Since we hate your fucking guts, $250,000 later, the answer is maybe." Chapter 34. "What else do you need to know?" Mitnick asks. Quinn says, "We don't want in until we can judge our safety. You say you had nothing to do with that FBI agent dying, so which is it? You're lying? Or you have a massive leak in your magic loyal network and someone sabotaged your op?" Kirchhoff pours 3 glasses of lemon water and personally sets them in front of Danny, then Manny, then Quinn. When he leans past Quinn to set the glass in front of him, he smells like English leather. Quinn remembers it on his dad, but assumed the drugstore cologne didn't exist anymore. "Option C," the man says. "Neither." He saunters back to the head of the table. Quinn watches and waits. "The traffic light malfunctioned," ex-POTUS says. Quinn scoffs. "That's your defense? Coincidence?" Mitnick counters, "The light was green in all directions." "Well, yeah," Manny agrees impatiently. "But what are the odds of that light at that time?" "It wasn't just that light," Mitnick interrupts. "We checked. The whole section of the grid did the same thing. Green in all directions. Cars collided as far from you as First Avenue South." Quinn frowns. "I didn't hear of any other accidents." Mitnick stares him in the eye. "What did you think of the news coverage of your crash?" "There wasn't any," Manny says. Danny asks, "You hushed it all?" Mitnick nods. The man adds, "There's some of that safety you're looking for." Quinn, Manny, and Danny exchange glances. Point. Quinn asks, "How much?" Mitnick looks mildly confused. "How much did we black out the press?" "No. How much will you pay us to do what you want?" The man folds his arms. "No cash. Do it for national security." The members of Shadowfast break out in genuine laughter. After it dies down, Quinn adds, "But seriously." "Seriously," the man says, "if you find out Bach's plan, you'll be paid in government services. That's what we can do." Quinn freshens his grip on the handle of the briefcase full of money. He shares a look with his partners. They stand. "Hold on," the man says. His voice holds an edge. "I suggest you hear the rest." The 3 men sit. Mitnick has the projector ready. It shows a prison portrait of Coop. "Cooper Ellington Lockwood III," she intones, her voice low and rich. "Outstanding warrants for fraud, wire fraud, failure to assist a person in danger, and 5 charges of grand theft." The slide advances. Francisco X. Aguilar, suspected in 11 charges of grand theft auto, all of them still prosecutable within the statute of limitations. The slide advances again. Percival Gaylord Buckminster. Christ, Manny interrupts in surprise. No wonder he goes by Night Boy. Mitnick continues. His juvenile record is sealed by court orders even we can't penetrate. But his step-parents have a restraining order on him. Through credit cards, we can trace his ownership to more than 40 knives. I think it's just a matter of time for this winter. The slide advances again. Emmanuel Charles Parada, Daniel Kang, Quinn Jameson Richards. Each of you distinguished U.S. veterans with honorable discharges. Some misdemeanors, no violent crimes. But this is the one that always gets you. None of you have paid federal taxes in at least 7 years. Oh, you've filed forms, but... Mitnick smiles. They're so phony. Our investigator laughed out loud. The guards, Mitnick and the man, stare down on Quinn and his friends. Danny whispers in Korean, Nimeral. If you leave this room rejecting our deal, the man says, you can expect to hear from federal, state, and local prosecutors tomorrow. In addition, all your passports are already flagged. If you try to flee the country, you ensure your capture. Quinn feels a black cloud settle over him. His face feels hot, not with embarrassment, but anger. Out the window, miles away, he can see a broad pool of black that is Puget Sound. But he feels the room close in like a box. He is the fooler, not the fool. How could this be happening? However, the man adds, if you accept our deal, each of your group gets a complete clean bill. Clean passports, clean record, not prosecutable for anything in your past or any crimes committed while in the service of Bend Sinister, assuming you don't kill any Americans. So, Mitnick piles on, pretty good compensation considering you get a fresh life simply by discovering what one sketchy billionaire is up to. Chapter 35. Inside, Quinn rages at the trap. Outwardly, he tries to keep his face blank. He can feel his poker face failing. If we work for you, I run the show. We don't check in with you about anything. I prefer that, the man allows. That helps our deniability. We care about results. How you get them is limited only by what you can get away with. Mitnick advances the slideshow past the mugshots. The wall fills with a picture of an ancient temple, dwarfed by a high-rise next door to it. Ever been to Seoul, South Korea? Not so fast, Quinn interrupts. You cover our operational expenses. You say Korea. We'll need airfare and a per diem for food and lodging, costs of equipment. Mitnick shoots a look at Kirchhoff, who nods. We'll cover reasonable expenses, she stipulates, but no fee for labor or services, no markup, just expenses. The man says, to be clear, you are not getting paid any cash. Oh, we'll get paid, Quinn promises himself. He still labors to cover his anger that government pukes outsmarted him. The man watches Quinn's face. Representative Mitnick, he says, how about you show Mr. Parada and Mr. Kang the wonders of the observation deck? Mitnick looks confused. Aren't we? I wasn't plain enough, the man says. Please give Mr. Richards and me the room. At the troubled expressions on the guards' faces, he adds, we'll be just fine. After a moment of hesitation, everyone clears the room. The guards keep their hands near their sidearms as they funnel Manny and Danny out the door. When the room empties, Quinn lounges in the conference room chair, one ankle over one knee, waiting. He stares coolly at the former U.S. president. On the punchable face index, he rates him a solid 8+. The man stands, moseys along the table, then sits right next to Quinn. Now there is no need for theatrics, he says. You don't have to keep up a front for your men, and I don't have to display executive presence for my team. He taps Quinn's knee, a minimal gesture that feels oddly intimate between strangers. Let's be partners. Quinn likes to think of himself as a professional, but he's having a hard time focusing. This man represents the absolute pinnacle of hypocrisy, running on the moral high ground while cheating on his wife, running against big government, then raising taxes on the middle class, thundering against evil nations, while a corporation he owns strikes trade deals with them under the table. Men like him make Quinn proud to live outside the system. Much as he would like to kick this guy's ass on behalf of all the little people, he keeps a lid on his reactions, because he can't figure this guy's angle. I'm not over this yet, he says. He pins the man with a direct gaze, unencumbered by any respect. The whole world knows you're a liar. How do we know you'll do anything you say? Looking at you is like looking into a hall of mirrors. What's real? What's not? Throw us in prison. Don't throw us in prison. You're not officially anybody now. I think the best play is we flip you off and walk out. You know better than that, the man says. Politics. One side's saint is the other side's demon. I'm not as bad as you think. Quinn stares back, keeping his face like stone. Frame it this way, the man says. How many times was my administration investigated? Fuck if I know. A lot. 8 times. How many times did I have to give testimony to Congress under oath? Twice that I remember. How many laws was I convicted of breaking? A long pause ensues before Quinn can admit it out loud. None, but I haven't been convicted of breaking the law either. What he can't say, he leaves implied, and we both know I'm a crook. There you have it, the man says. Either we're very innocent, misunderstood men, or we are men so clever you shouldn't cross us. He returns Quinn's gaze with his own steely version. Because we tend to get away with shit. His delivery, practiced for years in the highest corridors of power, is chilling. Quinn summons all his self-discipline trying to look unimpressed, but he now knows with this opponent he can't drop his guard. And then the man drops the other bomb. And only one of us has senior friends in the CIA, the FBI, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the IRS, and every wing of government. See, the part about this I like is, you're right, I can't really do anything. Officially, I'm nobody now. He makes a face of self-pity. Then he smiles. But I don't have to do anything. I know all the right ears. All I need to do is talk. He flaps one hand like a duckbill opening and closing. Talk, talk, talk. And then the people who are still official have interesting new information, and they do what they do. He eases back in his chair. He folds his hands over his belly. Then he just looks at Quinn. I still can't guess what you're playing at, Quinn admits. Nothing adds up. I told you we're true believers, like John Milton wrote. Inflamed with the admiration of virtue, stirred up with high hopes of living to be brave men and worthy patriots, dear to God and famous to all ages. Quinn closes his eyes. I thought there was no need for theatrics. When he opens them, he asks, what's with the goofy names? The King Arthur stuff and Ben Sinister. It's like labeling yourselves bad guys. The man chuckles. Inside joke, like George Bush Sr. joining Skull and Bones. Most of us lean toward the right, politically. In heraldry, a bend is a diagonal stripe across the shield. Sinister means it comes from the left hand. In other words, we're righties for our base, but in private we can lean left a little. He touches Quinn's knee again. Come on, you know what it means to play to an audience. Quinn uncrosses his legs and tucks them under the table. He's used the touches technique to establish rapport with someone who's holding out. He won't tolerate it on himself. What's the real reason you're picking on us? You can have attorneys general go after Bach. You can have some financial officials create a ruling that throws Skyhouse stock into the crapper. Hell, you can have snipers pick him off. You don't need us. The man leans in. He makes eye contact with Quinn, and his intensity makes him seem as if, in this moment, Quinn is his whole world. It's not that I need you. America needs you. You are perfect for this. You can go after this guy with fewer people than any other agency. You're used to moving at the speed of reality rather than the speed of government. You have skill and experience. He drops his voice so low that Quinn leans in to hear. But the best part is that you're apolitical. Republicans block Democrats, progressives block conservatives. It's a giant, ugly chess game. But there is a love of country that transcends party. Don't you see? You can afford to do the right thing just because it's right. He lets the spell of his voice sit unbroken for a moment. Then he leans back and adds, "You say you hate me because I didn't stand up for the little guy. Will you stand up for the little guy? Let him who loves his country in his heart and not with his lips only follow me." Then he watches Quinn. Quinn stares back, assessing. That was a hell of a show. The "you're my whole world in this moment" look, the soaring quotes, the personal flattery. But the man learned his riffs in a different world than Quinn's. Scholarship might impress a senator, but Quinn doesn't give a shit what books the man has read. "The appeal to my patriotism rings hollow," Quinn says, "when you've already threatened to jail me if I don't do what you say." The man shrugs. "Don't think of it as a threat. Think of how friendly I am because I have the dirt on you, yet I haven't spilled it." "And what's the deal with you refusing to pay us?" "I'm volunteering my time and you're volunteering your time. Perfectly equitable." Off Quinn's annoyed look, the man adds, "We're unofficial. I don't have funding, and every paper trail risks exposing us. Sorry, that's just how it is." Quinn tries to surprise the man with his next question. "What has Brody Bach done to you?" The man blinks. "Nothing. I don't know the man. I'm old school, he's new school. Our social circles don't overlap. I am literally following the evidence." Quinn watches carefully for micro-expressions, but as far as he can tell, the man speaks the truth. Neither man says anything for a moment. At last Quinn says, "I'm in. But I'm not happy about it. This is not what we do." The man's face lights up. "Beautiful, I promise you'll be happy you helped us. You are a true patriot." He grabs Quinn's hand in both of his and gives him an enthused, warm handshake. Then he leaps to his feet. "Let's call him back, shall we?" Quinn tries to look pleasant, but he imagines his face must wear the world's darkest smile as he chirps brightly, "Seoul! I always wanted to visit Korea." The man calls everyone back into the room. Minutes later, with the lights dimmed, Mitnick calls back the projected photo of a Korean temple. "Bach heads here next week. Some of his itinerary is public, so you should be able to pick him up without too much effort. He's meeting at least once with the Chinese, and that's where you might be able to learn his plans." The man looks toward the back of the room. "Dossiers?" One of the suited guards distributes file folders to Manny, Danny, and Quinn. Quinn flips his open. Besides photos of Brody Bach, it contains a bio. He shuffles some pages and finds Bach's academic record. Impressive, assuming he didn't cheat. Then a psychological workup on Bach. Mitnick keeps talking and forwarding through slides, but Quinn no longer hears her. The psych eval fascinates him. Though Bach has committed no crimes of record, the evaluator presents evidence that he is a psychopath. As if that weren't dangerous enough, his IQ is off the charts high. But within 3 paragraphs of reading, Quinn's fake smile turns more genuine. One topic leaps out at him. A con man who knows his mark's psychology practically has money in the bank. Quinn knows exactly what they can do to get in Bach's head. Now he just needs to figure out how to fuck the man. Thank you for listening to Metal Spies, a Shadowfast action thriller. You can enjoy every episode for free on Cold Chase's YouTube channel, where you'll find the entire Metal Spies audiobook in 6 parts, plus more videos for thriller fans. For advance notice of upcoming Shadowfast adventures, join my newsletter list. To sign up, send your email address to shadowfast@coldchase.media. Life is more exciting when you chase your adventure.